All right, so today we're going to do a deep dive into Stoicism,
Okay.
but not just the, ancient history and the dusty old books,
Right.
but how can it actually be useful for your life right now in 2024?
Mhm.
And we've got some excerpts here from How to Be a Stoic by Massimo Pigliucci.
Okay.
And this guy is a really interesting writer.
Mm.
He kind of blends the philosophy with personal anecdotes in a way that I think is really relatable.
Yeah, I think that's the key to making this philosophy accessible
Totally.
to people who are not, classically trained
Yeah,
philosophers.
so it's not intimidating, right? You
Right.
can actually see how this might apply to your life.
Exactly.
Okay, so he starts off right away talking about something that's so central to Stoicism, which is this idea of the difference between what we can and cannot control.
Right.
And I think that's where a lot of people get tripped up with Stoicism. They think, oh, it's just about giving up and,
Passivity.
yeah, just accepting whatever's happening to you.
Right.
But it's not about that.
No, not at all.
It's more about recognizing that there are certain things that are simply outside of our influence.
Yeah, and that frees up energy
Yes.
to focus on the things that you can actually impact.
Yeah.
Like your judgments, your actions,
Yeah.
your own character.
Exactly. And he uses an example from his own life that I thought was really interesting. He
Right.
talks about struggling with his weight. And he realized that,
Oh, yeah, we all do.
yeah, and
Yeah.
he realized that there's certain things he couldn't change, like his genetics, right? Or habits that were formed in childhood,
Yeah.
things that were just kind of outside of his control.
Right.
But instead of getting frustrated by that, he shifted his focus to what he could control, like diet and exercise.
And so it's about working within the reality that you have not some idealized version of yourself or the situation or the world.
Yeah, it's about maximizing your own potential within the constraints that you're given, right?
Yeah. Then that's where you can find freedom.
It's almost like reframing what success even means, right? Okay, so from there, he goes on to talk about the 4 cardinal virtues of Stoicism:
Okay, so which are,
wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance.
yes.
And I thought it was so interesting how these virtues pop up across different cultures and throughout history.
Absolutely.
It's not just a Stoic thing. We see them in ancient Greece, ancient Rome, even in modern philosophies.
Yes. Yes. It suggests that these virtues are really fundamental to human flourishing.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder, why are these so universal?
It's a good question.
Is there something about human nature that draws us to these?
Are they hardwired into us somehow?
Right.
And they provide guiding principles
Yeah.
for ethical dilemmas and,
Mhm.
just making choices that align with our values.
Yeah, and speaking of aligning with something bigger, the Stoics had this concept that's almost like transcendence, and he gives the example of Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor.
Okay.
And Marcus Aurelius would meditate on the vastness of the cosmos.
Oh, wow.
It's like putting your everyday worries into perspective, right?
Yeah. I mean, how small are your problems?
Exactly.
When you look up at the night sky and think about the immensity of the universe,
Right.
it's a beautiful practice, actually.
Yeah.
Because it connects you to the natural order of things.
Yeah, and it kind of highlights, the cyclical nature of life and death.
Right. And everything that's come before you and everything that will come after.
And it helps you to see your place within a much larger picture.
Exactly.
Okay, but let's bring it back down to earth for a second and back to those virtues.
Okay.
Pigliucci gets real and points out how we often fall short of these ideals, right?
Of course.
We're human.
Yeah. Nobody's perfect.
And he even talks about watching the 2016 U.S. presidential elections
Oh, yeah.
and being really struck by the lack of these virtues in many of the candidates.
I can imagine.
It's like, come on, guys.
Yeah.
Where's the wisdom? Where's the justice?
I think what's important there is that he isn't condemning politicians specifically.
No, I don't think so.
It's more about acknowledging that we all struggle to consistently embody these virtues,
Right.
even those in positions of power.
Yeah.
It's a call for self-reflection.
Yes.
For all of us
Absolutely.
to examine our own behavior and strive to live in accordance with our values.
Which is a good point because it's so easy to point fingers at others.
Oh, yeah.
But Stoicism is really about turning that inward.
Right.
Right. So that leads perfectly into the next section of the book, which is the role of role models.
Okay.
And Pigliucci argues that learning about individuals who embodied these virtues can be incredibly inspiring.
Yeah. I mean, we can all use a little inspiration.
Yeah, it's like if they can do it, maybe I can too.
Exactly. We can draw strength and guidance from those who've faced challenges with, integrity and courage.
Yeah.
You know, it's about learning from their experiences,
Yeah.
their successes,
Right.
and even their failures.
And he uses the example of Cato the Younger, a Roman senator
Okay.
who was known for his incorruptibility.
Interesting.
Now, obviously, Cato lived in a very different time,
Yeah.
and some of his views might seem outdated today.
Right.
But what Pigliucci emphasizes is the importance of context,
Yeah.
like judging historical figures within their own time period.
Right, because we can't hold them to the same standards
Right.
that we would hold people to today.
Yeah, it's a different world.
Absolutely.
So, we can't just impose our modern morality on
Yeah.
historical figures.
I mean, it's like how we can't impose modern morality on Shakespeare's plays.
Totally.
You know, we have to look at them through the lens of the time they were written.
Absolutely.
And so I think that raises an interesting question, though.
Okay.
How do we separate the timeless aspects of someone's character from the cultural norms of their era?
Yeah, that's a really good question.
It's a complex issue.
It is.
And I think Stoicism encourages us to grapple with those nuances
Mm-hmm.
as we learn from the past.
Yeah, to be thoughtful about it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got controlling what you can do, the importance of virtue, learning from role models, but let's get real life, throw some serious curveballs.
Right.
So how does Stoicism equip us to handle those moments when things get really tough?
Well, this is where I think Stoicism truly shines.
Okay.
It provides a framework for facing adversity with resilience,
Yeah.
for finding strength in the midst of difficult situations. Pigliucci introduces us to Larry Becker, who was a professor who contracted polio as a teenager
Oh, wow.
and faced incredible physical challenges throughout his life.
I mean, polio in those days, that must have been...
Yeah, incredibly difficult to deal with.
Yes, and yet he didn't let it define him.
No, he did
And
it.
that's what's so powerful about his story. So how did he use Stoicism to navigate that?
So what's remarkable about Becker is that he didn't just cope, he thrived.
Okay.
He used Stoic principles to adapt,
Yeah,
to find meaning and purpose despite his limitations.
I love that.
And he outlines 5 key takeaways from his experience that I think are incredibly valuable, not just for people facing physical challenges, but for all of us.
Okay, I'm all ears, lay 'em on me.
Okay, so first he says, keep things in perspective.
Okay.
Don't sweat the small stuff.
Uh-huh.
And remember that even big challenges can be overcome with the right mindset.
Okay.
Second, don't be afraid to ask for help.
Oh, that's a good one.
It's a sign of strength, not weakness. Third, have a life plan,
Okay.
but be flexible and adapt it as needed.
Yeah, life rarely goes according to plan.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like that saying, man plans, God laughs.
Totally.
His fourth point is to strive for internal harmony.
Oh,
Make sure your thoughts, your desires, and your actions are all aligned.
right.
And finally, he warns against brick walls.
Brick walls.
Yeah. Recognize your limitations,
Yeah,
know when to quit, but also be sure to distinguish real obstacles from perceived ones.
that's a good one.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we give up before we've even really tried,
Right?
because we've built up these mental brick walls
Right.
that aren't even really there.
Yeah.
So Becker's story is really a testament to the power of resilience.
It is.
And a reminder that even in the face of, immense challenges, we have a choice in how we respond.
We always have a choice.
Yeah, and that choice can make all the difference.
It truly speaks to the enduring power of Stoicism as a philosophy for living a resilient and fulfilling life,
Absolutely.
no matter what obstacles you face.
Okay, so we've talked about physical challenges.
Yeah.
But what about mental health?
Mm-hmm.
Pigliucci also explores how Stoicism can be helpful for those dealing with things like depression and anxiety,
Okay.
which are so common today.
They are increasingly common.
Yeah, I mean, does this ancient philosophy really have anything to offer in that arena?
Absolutely.
Okay.
The Stoic emphasis on self-awareness, on monitoring your thoughts and choosing your responses
Right.
can be incredibly valuable for managing those difficult emotions
Yeah.
and finding a sense of peace. It's not about denying or suppressing those feelings,
Right.
but about learning to observe them.
Without being overwhelmed.
Exactly, without being overwhelmed by them.
Yeah, that makes sense. So it's about becoming more aware of our own internal dialogue.
Precisely.
Right.
And Stoicism provides tools for changing that dialogue,
Okay.
for shifting from negative thought patterns to
Yeah.
more constructive ones.
That's what we all need.
Right.
So he shares the story of Andrew,
Okay.
this young man who found solace in Stoic principles when dealing with depression.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also the experience of an anonymous author
Okay.
who, facing the challenges of autism,
Wow.
discovered the empowering nature of Stoicism. And, their stories just highlight how these ancient principles can still be so relevant and helpful in modern times.
Yeah.
It's almost like Stoicism offers this framework for taking control of your own mental and emotional state rather than feeling like a victim of circumstance.
Exactly.
Okay, and Seneca, the Roman philosopher, had this great quote about self-knowledge.
Oh, yeah, I love Seneca.
He said, "We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more from imagination than from reality."
That's so true.
It's a reminder that sometimes we can be our own worst enemies.
Absolutely.
Right? We allow our thoughts to spiral into anxiety and fear.
Yes, and we create these worst-case scenarios in our minds
Totally.
that rarely actually come to pass.
And Stoicism encourages us to challenge those thoughts, to question their validity,
Yeah.
and to choose a more balanced perspective.
It's about taking a step back
Yeah.
and looking at the situation objectively.
Absolutely.
And often you'll find that things aren't as bad as they seem.
So true.
And that's where the Stoic practices of mindfulness and self-reflection come in. By paying attention to our thoughts and emotions,
Yeah.
we can start to identify those patterns of negativity
Right.
and choose to interrupt them.
And to reframe them.
Exactly.
Okay, so Stoicism seems to offer some powerful tools for dealing with our own inner critic.
It does.
But what about those external annoyances?
Yeah.
Those little things that can really get under your skin, like someone cutting you off in traffic or dealing with a rude cashier.
Oh, yeah, we've all been there.
Does Stoicism have anything to say about those everyday frustrations?
This is where the Stoic emphasis on managing your reactions and judgments becomes incredibly practical. I mean, we all encounter those frustrating situations, those people who push our buttons.
Right.
But Stoicism offers techniques for maintaining your composure
Okay.
and not letting those little things steal your peace of mind.
Okay.
It's about choosing how you respond rather than reacting impulsively.
That sounds great in theory, but in practice, it's hard not to get riled up
It is.
when someone is being completely unreasonable.
It definitely takes practice.
Yeah.
But Pigliucci offers some great advice from Epictetus
Okay.
on how to deal with insults.
Yeah.
And it might surprise you.
Okay.
Epictetus suggests responding with humor.
Humor.
Yes.
So instead of getting into an argument or letting it ruin my day, I should just try to laugh it off.
Exactly. I mean, this approach is brilliant on multiple levels.
Okay.
First, it disarms the insulter.
Right.
They're expecting a reaction.
Yeah.
And by not giving them one, you take away their power.
Okay.
Second, it helps you maintain your own composure. Instead of getting caught up in the negativity,
Yeah.
you choose a response that maintains your own inner peace.
Yeah.
Remember, you can't control what others do, but you can control how you react.
I like that. And Pigliucci shares this hilarious anecdote
Okay.
about his friend Bill Irvine,
Oh, yeah.
who's a philosophy professor and a big Stoic practitioner.
Okay.
And Irvine was once approached by a colleague who said, "I was just trying to decide whether to cite your work in my next paper."
Uh-oh.
Yes, but I can't decide if what you wrote is just misguided or downright evil.
Oh, my God. Can you imagine?
What a burn.
I know.
What do you even say to that?
I know, but Irvine, being the Stoic that he is,
Yeah.
responds with humor.
He says, "Well, good thing you haven't read my other works, or you'd see just how evil and misguided I really am."
That's brilliant.
I know, he totally diffused the situation with this witty comeback.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that we don't have to take ourselves so seriously,
Right.
and that sometimes the best response to negativity is to meet it with humor.
Exactly.
I love that. Okay, so humor can be a powerful tool.
It is.
What other techniques does Stoicism offer for handling those everyday annoyances?
Well, there's another piece of advice from Epictetus that I've been trying to put into practice lately,
Okay.
which is speak without judging.
Speak without judging.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
It's about recognizing the difference between matters of fact
Okay.
and our own opinions or assumptions.
Okay, so explain that a bit more.
So it's about acknowledging that we often jump to conclusions
Yeah.
about people and their motivations without really understanding the full picture. And Stoicism encourages us to be more curious and less quick to condemn.
Okay.
So instead of judging someone's actions, try to understand the context the reasons behind their behavior.
So, like, instead of getting annoyed when someone cuts me off in traffic, I should try to consider that maybe they're rushing to the hospital or dealing with an emergency.
You might not know the full story.
Right.
And your assumptions could be completely wrong.
Totally.
Epictetus gives these really simple examples. He says, someone bathes in haste.
Okay.
Don't say he bathes badly, but in haste.
Okay.
Someone drinks a lot of wine. Don't say he drinks badly, but a lot.
I like that.
Yeah.
It's about sticking to the observable facts.
Yes.
And withholding judgment until we know the reasons behind someone's actions.
Exactly.
And it's a good reminder that our judgments often say more about us than they do about the person we're judging.
Absolutely.
Right? It's about choosing understanding over condemnation.
Yeah. And it ties back into the Stoic idea of focusing on what you can control. You can't control how other people behave.
Right.
But you can control your own judgments and reactions.
Totally. And that shift in perspective can be incredibly freeing.
It can be.
You know, as we've been talking about all these practical applications of Stoicism, I've been thinking about how relevant this philosophy is to our digital lives.
Oh, absolutely.
Social media is a breeding ground for negativity and judgment.
It is.
It's so easy to get caught up in the drama and the outrage.
Yeah, and the comparisons.
Oh my gosh, the comparisons.
Yeah.
It's like a recipe for anxiety and self-doubt.
It is.
But Stoicism offers a different approach.
It does.
Right? It's about choosing to engage with content that aligns with your values, responding to negativity with grace, or simply disengaging.
Right.
And remembering that what others say online is ultimately outside your control.
It's not about you.
Yeah.
It's about them.
Exactly. And it's about creating a digital sanctuary.
Yes.
You know, like a space that reflects your own inner peace and values.
Yes, I love that, a digital sanctuary.
Yeah.
Rather than letting the negativity of the online world seep in.
Yeah, it's about being mindful of your digital consumption.
Right. And choosing to curate a feed that supports your well-being.
Yeah.
Rather than detracting from it.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about how Stoicism can help us deal with difficult emotions, challenging situations, everyday annoyances, even navigate the digital world. But there's another aspect of Pigliucci's book that I want to touch on before we wrap up this section, which is this idea of friendship.
Oh, interesting.
Friendship is a fascinating topic.
It is.
In Stoic philosophy.
Yeah.
The Stoics valued deep, meaningful connections based on shared values and mutual respect.
You're right.
They recognized that true friendship is a source of strength and support.
Absolutely.
But they also had a very specific view of what constitutes true friendship.
Yeah. It's not just about, you know, hanging out and having fun.
Right, exactly.
Like the Stoics believed that true friendship should be based on something more substantial.
Okay, so tell me more about that. What is that something more substantial?
Yeah.
Well, they distinguish between different types of friendships.
Okay.
So there are friendships of utility, where people are connected by a common goal or benefit.
Okay, like coworkers or something.
Exactly.
Okay.
Then there are friendships of pleasure, where people are drawn together by shared interests or enjoyment.
Like your tennis buddy.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And then there are friendships of the good.
Friendships of the good.
Which are the rarest and most valuable kind.
Okay. So what makes those so special?
Well, these friendships are based on a deep affinity of character.
Okay.
A shared commitment to living a virtuous life.
Okay.
They're about mutual growth and support. Helping each other become better versions of yourselves.
Wow, so it's about more than just shared interests or having fun together.
Yeah.
It's about having friends who challenge you to grow, who support you in your pursuit of a meaningful life.
Exactly. Aristotle famously described these friends as mirrors to our souls.
Oh, wow.
They reflect back to us, our strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah.
Helping us to see ourselves more clearly.
That's a beautiful image, but here's the thing.
Yeah.
How do we cultivate these kinds of friendships in a world that often feels so superficial and transactional?
It's definitely a challenge.
Yeah, it's hard to find people who are truly committed to living a virtuous life.
Right.
Let alone build deep friendships with them.
It takes time and effort.
Yeah.
But Stoicism offers some guidance.
Okay.
It starts with focusing on your own character.
Okay.
Cultivating those virtues that attract like-minded individuals.
So it's not about going out and searching for perfect friends. It's about working on yourself.
Exactly.
Becoming the kind of person who attracts and sustains those deep, meaningful connections.
It's about leading by example.
Yeah.
Embodying the qualities you seek in others.
I love that. And it's also about being discerning.
Yes.
Recognizing the difference between superficial acquaintances and those relationships that have the potential to deepen into true friendship. The Stoics believed that we should be selective
Yes.
about who we allow into our inner circle,
Absolutely.
choosing friends who share our values
Yeah.
and support our pursuit of a good life.
It's about quality over quantity when
Yeah,
it comes to friendship.
totally. And it's a reminder that building and maintaining those deep connections takes time and effort
Yeah,
and a willingness to be vulnerable.
it does.
This conversation about friendship has been really insightful.
It has.
It's made me think about my own relationships
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the qualities I value in my friends.
That's good.
But there's one more aspect of Pigliucci's book that I want to touch on before we wrap up this section,
Okay.
which is this idea of living in accordance with nature.
Okay.
This seems to be a core principle in Stoicism, but I'll admit it's a bit fuzzy for me.
Yeah, it's a concept that's often misunderstood.
Okay, so what does it actually mean to live in accordance with nature?
It doesn't mean rejecting technology or living a rustic life.
Okay.
It's about recognizing our place in the cosmos, understanding the natural order of things,
Yeah.
and living in a way that aligns with those principles.
So it's not about literally, living in the wilderness or shunning modern conveniences. It's more about understanding our place in the bigger scheme of things.
Exactly. The Stoics believed that the universe is governed by a rational principle,
Okay.
the logos,
Okay.
which can be interpreted as either God or simply the laws of nature.
Okay, so there's this underlying order to the universe,
Right.
whether you call it God or natural law.
Mm-hmm.
And living in accordance with nature means aligning ourselves with that order.
Precisely.
Okay.
And this belief in a rational universe led them to emphasize the importance of reason and virtue in living a good life.
Okay.
They believed that by cultivating our rational faculties
Yeah.
and living in accordance with virtue, we align ourselves with the natural order of things.
So it's about understanding the way things are,
Yes.
accepting the constraints of reality, and choosing to act in ways that are aligned with our nature as rational and social beings.
Exactly.
And that includes accepting the inevitability of death.
Right. The Stoics didn't fear death.
Yeah.
They saw it as a natural part of life, the completion of a cycle.
I can see how that perspective could be both comforting and empowering.
It can be.
Yeah, instead of fearing death, we can embrace life more fully,
Right.
knowing that it's finite and precious.
Absolutely.
And Pigliucci shares this powerful story
Okay.
about Vice Admiral James Stockdale,
Okay.
who was a Navy pilot who was shot down and captured during the Vietnam War.
Oh, wow.
And Stockdale credits his study of Stoicism,
Okay.
particularly the writings of Epictetus,
Yeah.
with helping him survive 7 years as a prisoner of war.
Wow, 7 years.
I know, it's unimaginable.
It is.
So how did Stoicism help him endure such an ordeal?
Well, Stockdale's story is a testament to the strength and resilience that Stoicism can cultivate.
Okay.
It's about facing even the most difficult circumstances with courage and dignity,
Yeah.
accepting what you can't control,
Right.
and finding meaning and purpose even in the midst of suffering.
It's a powerful reminder that even in the darkest of times, we have the capacity to choose our response and find a glimmer of hope
We do.
and to find meaning.
It's about recognizing that even when we're stripped of everything external,
Yeah.
we still have our inner freedom, our capacity to choose our thoughts and attitudes.
Right.
And that's where true strength lies.
This is heavy stuff. It's inspiring to think about the power of the human spirit to overcome
It is.
even the most daunting challenges.
And Stoicism offers a framework for cultivating that inner strength,
Yeah.
for finding peace and purpose even in the midst of adversity.
It's incredible how these ancient ideas can still resonate so deeply today.
I know, it's amazing.
Stockdale's story is a powerful testament to the enduring relevance of Stoicism.
It is.
But as we wrap up this section of our deep dive into how to be a Stoic, I think it's worth noting that Stoicism isn't just about passively accepting whatever life throws at you.
No, it's not.
There's also a strong emphasis on taking action on living a life of purpose.
Yeah.
And we'll explore that more in the next section.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, it's about aligning our actions with our values, making choices that are both personally fulfilling and beneficial to others. But how do we decide what the right action is? Life can be so complicated. There's so much gray area.
Totally. It's not always clear cut.
Right.
So how do we navigate those tricky situations?
Well, Pigliucci uses this analogy that I think is really helpful. He talks about the Stoic archer.
Okay.
So imagine an archer, carefully aiming their arrow before releasing it.
Okay.
We, too, should consider our goals and actions carefully. We should choose our targets, wisely put in the effort to improve our aim, and then, crucially, we let go of the outcome.
So it's about being intentional, about putting in the effort, but also recognizing that we don't ultimately control the results. That's a tough one, especially in a culture that's so focused on, success and achievement.
It is. It's a real challenge.
Yeah, like we're constantly being told you gotta hustle, you gotta make things happen.
Right? You got to control your destiny.
But the Stoics are saying, whoa, hold on a second.
Yeah.
There's a limit to what we can actually control.
Absolutely. And true happiness and fulfillment come from living a virtuous life,
Okay.
from acting in accordance with reason and nature.
So it's not about the external outcomes.
No external success or failure is ultimately irrelevant.
Okay. I mean, I get that. But isn't that a recipe for complacency if we don't care about the results? Why bother striving for anything?
It's not about giving up on our goals or becoming apathetic.
Okay.
It's about choosing to focus our energy on what we can actually influence.
Which is?
Our own actions and character.
Okay.
And this, paradoxically, can actually lead to greater effectiveness.
Oh, so?
Because when we're not burdened by the anxiety of needing a specific outcome, we're more likely to act with clarity and purpose.
Okay, so it's like that saying, do your best and let God handle the rest.
Exactly.
Okay, I like that.
And this leads to a sense of inner peace and freedom when we're not attached to outcomes, when we're not constantly striving for external validation.
Yeah.
We find a sense of contentment that's independent of circumstances.
Okay, that makes sense. But let's get real for a minute. It's easy to talk about detachment from outcomes when things are going well.
Sure.
But what about when we face real setbacks? When things don't go our way.
Right.
How does Stoicism help us deal with those moments of disappointment or even failure?
Well, Stoicism encourages us to view those setbacks as opportunities for growth and learning.
Okay.
It's about reframing our perspective, seeing challenges not as obstacles, but as stepping stones on the path to virtue.
So instead of getting discouraged or giving up,
Right.
we should try to learn from our mistakes and use them to become stronger and wiser.
Precisely. And remember, the Stoics believed in something called preferred indifference.
Okay, I've heard that term before, but I'm still a little fuzzy on it. Yeah. What does it mean to say that these things are preferred but not essential for happiness?
So these are things that are generally good to have, like health, wealth, reputation.
Okay.
But they're not essential for happiness.
Okay, so it's not that we shouldn't strive for these things.
Right.
It's just that we shouldn't attach our happiness to them.
Exactly. True happiness, according to the Stoics, comes from within.
Okay.
It's about living a virtuous life, aligning our actions with our values, and finding contentment in the process, regardless of the external outcome.
So it's about recognizing that those external things are ultimately outside our control.
Yes.
We can work hard, we can make smart choices, but sometimes things just don't go our way.
Right.
And that's okay.
And that's okay.
We can still find contentment and peace.
Exactly. It's about accepting that life is full of ups and downs.
Yeah.
That there will be setbacks and disappointments.
For sure.
But it's also about recognizing that we have the power to choose how we respond to those challenges. We can choose to see them as opportunities for growth, for learning, for becoming stronger and more resilient.
This is such a powerful perspective.
It is.
It's about shifting our focus from what we have to who we are.
Exactly.
From external achievements to inner strength and virtue.
And that's what makes Stoicism so relevant to our modern lives. In a world that's constantly bombarding us with messages about what we should buy.
Oh my gosh, yes.
How we should look, what we should achieve.
It's exhausting.
It is. But Stoicism offers a different path.
Okay, tell me more about that path.
It's a path to inner peace, to contentment, to living a life that's aligned with our values, regardless of the external circumstances.
It's about finding freedom from the tyranny of external validation.
Yes.
From the constant need to compare ourselves to others.
Right.
And strive for things that are ultimately beyond our control.
Exactly. It's about finding joy in the simple things.
Yeah.
In the beauty of the present moment and the connections we share with others. And in the process of becoming the best versions of ourselves.
Well, this deep dive into Stoicism has been truly eye-opening.
It has.
I feel like I have a whole new framework for navigating life's challenges and finding a sense of peace and purpose.
That's great to hear.
But what about the big picture stuff?
Okay.
What does Stoicism have to say about the meaning of life and our place in the universe?
That's a great question. And it's something that the Stoics thought deeply about.
Yeah.
They believed that the ultimate purpose of life is to live in accordance with nature,
Okay.
which means aligning ourselves with the rational order of the cosmos.
Okay, so it's about understanding the natural laws that govern the universe and living in harmony with them.
Exactly.
But what does that look like in practice? How do we actually align ourselves with this cosmic order?
Well, it starts with recognizing that we are all part of something much larger than ourselves.
Okay.
We are interconnected with all beings and all things, and our actions have ripple effects throughout the cosmos.
It's like that butterfly effect idea, where even small actions can have far-reaching consequences.
Exactly. And this realization should inspire us to act with wisdom and compassion,
Okay.
to make choices that contribute to the well-being of all.
So it's not just about personal fulfillment.
Right.
It's about recognizing our responsibility to the world around us,
Yes.
to all of humanity, and even to the planet itself.
Precisely. The Stoics believed that we have a duty to use our reason and our virtue to make the world a better place.
I love that it's a reminder that our lives have meaning and purpose beyond our own individual pursuits.
Yeah.
It's about contributing to something larger than ourselves, making a difference in the world.
And it's about finding joy in the simple things,
Yeah?
in the beauty of nature and the connections we share with others.
Hmm.
The Stoics believe that true happiness comes from appreciating the present moment,
Okay.
from being grateful for what we have, and from living in harmony with the natural order of things.
That's such a beautiful and profound perspective.
It is.
It's a reminder to slow down, to savor the present moment, and to appreciate the interconnectedness of all things.
Absolutely.
And it's a call to action,
Yes.
to use our time wisely, to make choices that are aligned with our values, and to live a life that is both meaningful and fulfilling.
It is, and I think that's a great place to leave it for now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is amazing how, this philosophy that's thousands of years old can still feel so relevant to us today.
It's like there's something timeless about these ideas.
Absolutely. In a world that often feels so chaotic and unpredictable,
Mm-hmm.
I think Stoicism offers this sense of grounding,
Mm-hmm.
like a framework for navigating the complexities of life with clarity and purpose.
And one of the things that Pigliucci emphasizes is that Stoicism isn't about becoming some kind of emotionless robot.
Right.
It's not about suppressing our emotions.
No, not at all.
It's about learning to manage them in a healthy way.
It's about understanding them,
Yeah.
observing them without judgment, and then choosing how we want to act and respond to them.
Right. That idea of choice, I think, is so central to Stoicism. Absolutely.
Like, we may not be able to control what happens to us, but we can always choose our attitude and our response.
And that's a really empowering idea
It is.
because it gives us back a sense of agency.
Yeah, and that's where those Stoic practices of mindfulness and self-reflection come in, right?
Exactly.
It's about becoming more aware of our own thoughts, feelings, and reactions.
By paying attention to our inner landscape, we can start to identify those patterns of negativity and choose to interrupt them.
Yeah, we can question our assumptions,
Mm-hmm.
challenge our negative thoughts, and choose a more balanced perspective.
It's like taking back control of our own minds rather than letting our emotions run wild.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. The importance of virtue,
Yeah.
managing our emotions, dealing with adversity, finding meaning and purpose.
Right.
But before we wrap up our deep dive into Stoicism, I want to circle back to this concept of preferred indifference.
Okay.
Because I think it's so relevant to our modern lives,
It is a challenging concept. It is.
especially in a culture that places so much emphasis on external achievements and material possessions.
Totally. Like, we're constantly being bombarded with messages about what we should buy and how we should look and...
Right, and who we should be.
Yeah. But understanding this Stoic principle can be incredibly liberating.
It can be.
So remind us again, what are preferred indifference?
So these are things that are generally considered good to have.
Okay.
Like wealth, health, social status, a good reputation.
Yeah, all the things that our society tells us we should be striving for.
Exactly. But the Stoics argued that these things are not essential for happiness.
Okay.
They are preferred because they can make life easier and more enjoyable.
Mm-hmm.
But they're indifferent in the sense that they don't ultimately determine our well-being.
So it's not that we shouldn't strive for these things, it's just that we shouldn't attach our happiness to them.
Exactly. True happiness, according to the Stoics, comes from within.
Okay.
It's about living a virtuous life, aligning our actions with our values, and finding contentment in the process regardless of the external outcomes.
It's about recognizing that those external things are ultimately outside our control.
Yes.
Like, we can work hard, we can make smart choices, but sometimes things just don't go our way.
And that's okay.
And that's okay.
We can still find contentment and peace.
Right.
It's about accepting that life is full of ups and downs.
Mm-hmm.
that there will be setbacks and disappointments.
Yeah.
But it's also about recognizing that we have the power to choose how we respond to those challenges.
Yeah, we can choose to see them as opportunities for growth,
Exactly.
for learning, for becoming stronger and more resilient.
Absolutely.
This is such a powerful perspective.
It is.
It's about shifting our focus from what we have to who we are, from
Yes.
external achievements to inner strength and virtue.
And that's what makes Stoicism so relevant to our modern lives.
I think so too.
In a time of constant change and uncertainty, Stoicism provides this path to resilience, contentment, and meaningful living.
Well, this deep dive into Stoicism has been truly eye-opening. I feel like I have a whole new framework for navigating life's challenges and finding a sense of peace and purpose.
That's wonderful to hear.
And I encourage all of you listening to explore Stoicism further and see how it can enrich your own lives.
Yeah, there's so many great resources available.
There are maybe pick up Pigliucci's book, How to Be a Stoic, or check out some of the other great books and articles and podcasts out there.
It's a journey of self-discovery and growth that's well worth taking.
Absolutely. And remember, the Stoics believed that wisdom is a lifelong pursuit.
It's about continually learning, growing, and striving to become the best versions of ourselves.
Yeah, and it's about sharing that wisdom with others, helping to create a more just compassionate and fulfilling world.
Beautifully said.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into Stoicism.
It's been a pleasure.
We'll be back next time with another fascinating exploration of ideas that matter. Until then, keep seeking knowledge and keep diving deep.